we're going to start with a little bounce, shake, wiggle as we do many weeks. So you might just start bouncing your heels up and down, allowing your body to kind of shake and move around. You might actively shake some stuff and maybe start with some really deep breaths. So deep inhale, deep exhale. Maybe you exhale through your mouth, maybe through your nose, whatever feels right today. And if you feel like hopping, you can hop. One thing that the kind of impact that you get from hopping or bouncing with some impact, one of the benefits is that it's great for bone density. So if that feels like it's appropriate for you, you might try that. And as you're shaking and bouncing and wiggling, you might consider, is there anything that you can kind of shake off, at least for a little while? Just let go of. And you can take your time slowing down and coming back to center. Maybe closing your eyes if that feels right to you. And just notice, what are you feeling now? Maybe take a couple of really deep inhales. And then if your eyes are closed, you can open them and find what for you feels like a stable way to stand. And try coming up on your toes. See if you can do it pretty slowly and with control, and then come down. And try that a few times, just noticing, what does it take? You can certainly place your hand at a wall for balance if that's useful. Once you've tried it a few times like that, you might consider popping a block between your ankles to see, does that change anything? Does it change how it feels? Does it make it more or less stable? A lot of times when we come up on our toes, our ankles will either roll in or out. You might notice as you come up, if that feeling of the block gets tighter, maybe your ankles tend to roll in. If it gets looser or falls out, maybe they tend to roll out. Once you've done that a few times, you can take that block and set it aside. You might shake out your legs a little. And if it feels good to get a little stretch in your calves, you might even just do that by placing your heel on the ground in front of you and pulling your toes up. Place that heel down, pull those toes up, and kind of try to squeeze your foot towards your body. So that would be a more active type of stretch. And a more passive type of stretch, and they're both great, would be to place a block under your toes, and you could lean into that. So whichever you prefer. And once you've done it on one side, you can switch to the second side. So again, either placing your heel down and pulling your toes up actively, using the strength in your ankle, low body, foot, or you could place a block there, place your toes on the block and lean into that. And sometimes it's nice to just get a sense of how it feels different, each different way of doing it. And when you feel like that's complete, you can Set your blocks over to the side. And as always, if you want to have a wall around or a piece of furniture where you place your hand for balance, that's great. That's certainly a great way to do this. But start by grounding down through your right leg and taking your left foot. And you can either rub that left foot on your right foot or somewhere along the side of your leg, on the inside of your right leg. So this is kind of an active tree pose here. Whatever you're, wherever you're placing that left foot, the sole of it is going to be starting to warm up, getting a little friction, and kind of stimulating the nerves in the bottom of your foot, which will help prepare you for balancing. That might feel a little awkward, and certainly placing your hand somewhere stable might be a really great option here. Once you feel like that foot's pretty warmed up, you can switch to the other side. So again, really ground down through that standing leg. And maybe you could also start by kind of moving your foot around on the ground, and then maybe you move to placing it on top of your other foot with the possibility of trying it out on the side of your leg. Take another moment to make sure both your feet are warmed up on the bottom. And then we'll try some hip cars, controlled articular rotations. So ground down through your right leg. You might want to place your hands more balance. Lift your left knee, so it's up in front of you, and then slowly bring it out towards the side. And once it's like, I'm not going to move any more in this direction, you can start drawing a circle with your knee, trying to squeeze your foot towards your butt as you do so. Bring it around, down, and up. And try that a couple of times. So the size and shape of your circle is going to be determined by so many things. And one of them is the shape of your hip socket, which is something that we're all shaped differently. So make sure you're really checking in with what you're feeling, noticing where are the parameters of my circle. And once you've done it a few times on the first side, you can place that foot down. Maybe you shake out your standing leg a little. And move on to the second side. And you might notice, does it feel different on the second side? Is the shape of your circle on the second side different? Very likely it is. And can you do this while still breathing pretty freely? Once you've done a few on that side, you can bring that leg down. Maybe you shake out both your legs. And notice how your hips feel. So you might kind of jut your hips out in one direction and then the other, maybe keeping your knees pretty soft. Once you've done that a few times, you might try a few hip circles, swinging your hips around in one direction. And then pausing and going in the other direction. Once you've done that, take your time coming back to center and grab a block. You can place your block down in front of you. And from here, ground down through your right foot. Tap your left toes on your block, set that foot down, and step your right foot out to the side, 20 degree. Then step back in and try that on the other side. So tap your right foot on the block, set it down, left foot steps out, and then back in. And try that a few times on each side. So essentially you're stepping with one foot, placing it down, stepping the other one out to the side, popping yourself back in. So there's a lot of directional changing here, shifting weight from one foot to the other, and also having to keep track of which side you're on because we're switching feet each time. And if you were here last week, you might remember that I have a really hard time remembering which foot I was on. So we have lots of different challenges kind of baked into this one thing. Take your time evening yourself out. So make sure you've done it equal times on both sides. And then pause and just notice, like, how does that feel? How do your hips feel? How do your feet feel? How does everything in between and above feel? And then if you have two blocks, grab them both, walk yourself to the end of your mat, and place the blocks flat down in front of your feet. So for this next challenge, if you don't have blocks, you can certainly imagine you do. You could also use a cushion for this. But begin by, we're kind of going to just push these blocks around. Begin by taking your first foot, whichever one it is, pushing one of your blocks out to any degree and setting that foot down. And then do the same thing with the other foot. So we're going to be walking our blocks like this today. And it might be challenging and it might not, but certainly it's not something we do every day. And you might try walking your blocks around the room. So you could go back and forth on your mat. You could also, like I say, go around the room, which would involve maneuvering things, turning the blocks, controlling them that way. And you get to decide which is an appropriate challenge for you. So it might be that coming to one side of your mat, turning around, moving to the other side would be the best situation for you. It's going to depend on how you're feeling, how your room is set up, what kind of surfaces you have to work with. Just spend the next few minutes walking your blocks. If this challenge is going well for you, great. Keep at it. If you would like